on the case.
It's just another Sunday. You're sitting there just watching some TV, and all of a sudden you see your neighbors and everybody on your street just running down the road, screaming and freaking out, and you run outside and you're trying to figure out what's going on, trying to make sense of everything. What's going on? You, my friend, are in a disaster film. What's going on, everyone? Designedcoma here with This Army Sports, and the gameplay you're watching is me playing Team Deathmatch on Compound in Advanced Warfare. So, disaster films. Why am I talking about disaster films? Well, why are we drawn to disaster films? And the reason I'm coming up to this question, or I have this question in my head, is because San Andreas, Dwayne Johnson's new film, is apparently his highest grossing film to date out of his acting career. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you know, considering some of the films that he's done in the past, and this one is his highest grossing, what's drawing people to it? You know, I mean, there are a lot of people who like Dwayne Johnson as an actor. I think he's an okay actor. I mean, you know, he's not great or anything, but he's pretty good, you know. He's good for an actor. But at the same time, you know, with this being his highest grossing, what's the underlying reason for it? Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are drawn to disaster films. Why are we drawn to these movies, considering that this, you know, a lot of them are just, you know, they're filled with destruction, people dying, you know, horrible nightmares, you know, some of our worst ones coming true, you know, well, not necessarily coming true, but at least coming true in these films, you know, and we're drawn to them. And I'm drawn to them as well. I can attest to it because two of my favorite disaster films, they're older films. You may not, you know, some may not have heard of these, is The Towering Inferno and The Poseidon Adventure. The Towering Inferno is a film about a skyscraper that catches on fire and people are trying to make their way out of the building to survive, and that's, you know, pretty much the film. You know, it's really all it is. You know, people are trying to make their way out, you know, and people do die on the way down, and you know, and people, you know, survive. The Poseidon Adventure is kind of a Titanic type movie, only the ship doesn't sink in the beginning. Anyways, it doesn't necessarily sink. It basically just flips upside down, and people are trying to fight their way out. So, why are we drawn to them? Well, I did a little research and I came across this website. It's called lifescience.com, and there's an article in there written by John Hoops, who's a sociologist at the University of Kansas, and he's got some pretty interesting points in here, you know, considering the fact that we are attracted to disaster films, and they're basically just all these horrible depictions of, you know, the human race being completely wiped out, or people just dying in these terrible situations, but yet they rake in a bunch of money. And if you do a search on how much money some of these films have made, I'll leave a link in the description for the site that I came across that's got the gross earnings of some of the films. Titanic is still at number one. It's upwards around $660 million to date, which is pretty interesting when it comes to disaster films. So some of the things that he points out is that apparently they ally individual fears of human mortality. Basically because we're not all going to die at the same time. So we all relate to, you know, our own individual fear of human mortality, whether it's dying, you know, drowning, or dying in a fiery building, or, you know, aliens using us to terraform the planet to suit their needs. You know, it's one of those things that we identify with when it comes to these disaster films. And some of the other things he points out is, and this is really the interesting part, is the small group of people that are trying to survive, the small band of survivors that are trying to make it out. You know, like in The Walking Dead, we got that group of people that are trying to survive. They just want to live. and find safety and not have to struggle so much anymore. And it's really it's the same for these disaster films, and we only identify with that group of people, and we will actually also identify with a certain character within that group of people. We'll pick a character and go, wow, that person's a little bit like me. I really relate to that person. You will be drawn to that person. You will stick with that person, and hopefully your character survives. At least that's what you hope for, because you're like, yeah, I want that person to survive because that person's like me. And I've done this in some disaster films where I was like, wow, yeah, I think I'm a lot like that person. I really hope that person makes it, because that means I'll make it, even though it's just a movie and it's not necessarily real. And the other interesting thing is that we apparently do not care about the other characters that this group will come in contact with. So any of the, I guess you could call them the extras in the film, where they come across them and they try to convince them that they need to do this or that or whatever to survive, but yet they're resilient to whatever they're saying and they're going to go and do their own thing. We don't even care about those people. It's like all I care about is this group of five. This group of five making it. Especially the character I identify with, because I want that person to live, because that means I'm going to live. So he also goes on to say, and this is really my last point, is that they allow us as an audience, obviously, to escape into a world where our usual everyday responsibilities are basically gone. They're just out the door, out the window. We don't have to worry about anything else. All we care about is surviving, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys, learned something if you did, but I thought it was really cool. It was really interesting when I came across. And if you guys did enjoy the video, give it a like, favorite, and subscribe. And I will catch you guys in the next one, and I'll leave you to the rest of the gameplay. And I hope you enjoyed the gameplay as well. And I'll catch you guys in the next one again.
Well done, Sentinel.